This is Podco Media Networks.
It's the Innovation Podcast with Mark Reed Edwards and Garnett Harriman. Let's start the show.
Hey Garnett, how are you?
I'm great. It's another beautiful day here in Laguna Beach.
We talk about the weather, don't we? That's what we do at the beginning of this show. We talk about the weather or walking our dogs. That seems to be what it is every time.
Well, I think that's one of the benefits of getting old. You know, we are forgetful enough so that we can talk about the same things over and over and get the same level of satisfaction.
See, you're getting old. I am old. So that's the difference.
It's probably very, very little.
We have what I think is going to be a great discussion with Emanuele Dal Carlo of Fairbnb. And I want to hear all about this organization and Emanuele's background. It promises to be a great discussion. Do you want to take it away?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time describing Fairbnb because I really want to hear it straight from the horse's mouth, as it were, from Emanuele, one of the founders of this really innovative, sustainable travel cooperative. But I will talk a little bit about my knowledge of Emanuele. He and I have known each other for a relatively short period of time, but I've come to appreciate his many years of expertise as a, sort of a professional marketing, a guy who's well versed in the science of marketing. He has a long-lived and successful agency based in, I think, in Venice, and they may have more offices throughout Italy. And they have some amazing clients throughout Italy, including the Murano Glass Consortium, which is just such an honor to be talking to someone who's so close to one of the most amazing brands in the world. I mean,
the glasses are unreal. Those glasses are just
really
so beautiful.
Really beautiful, and a sustained artisanal production, tradition. And so Emanuele is a professional marketer. And then he's also a social entrepreneur and a very civic-minded person who started from the reality that his beloved Venezia is being overrun in many ways by forces that may seem beyond his control. And he and a group of like-minded collaborators around Europe decided to try to take some of that control back and create alternatives to these business models that have led to over-tourism. I think maybe that's the perfect segue. Emanuele, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you here.
It was a great introduction, first. Thank you.
Absolutely. I don't want to spend that much time on your marketing agency per se. We can talk about that maybe later. But tell us the origin story of Fairbnb, what it stands for, other than being a fairly clever pun. What does it stand for? How did it come about? Who are your main collaborators?
Okay, well, it was a long process. It all started in 2015. I've been a part of a series of grassroots movement in my town for a long time, trying to be one of the, steer some action in a city that is losing its identity. And in 2015, one of the group I'm part of, which is called Reset Venezia, started a research about the impact of short-term rentals in our town. Basically, we had official numbers that were not worrying, like the numbers were like we had like 2,000 short-term rentals in all the area of Venice. But we had the feelings and that there were more. There were a lot of people in the street with trolleys going up, down the stairs at the middle of the night, arriving in coincidence with planes, international flights. So we said that there must be more than 2,000, because in a city like this, you can feel when there is pressure from tourism, and especially when a new market with new kind of travelers arrive, being a city that is sadly lives mainly from tourism. You can easily spot the new trends. And so we started analyzing the number, and we teamed up with this Australian guy and that lives in New York, and his name is Murray Cox, and he runs a website called Airbnb.coop. Basically what he does is a data activist. He scrapes data from, in this case, Airbnb, but he also tackles other platforms. And we asked him if we could do a scraping of the situation in Venice. Well, the result were quite shocking. We found out there were more than 3,200 short-term rentals at the time. and it was like a 30% more of the official one. So we thought, okay, we have a problem. How come the city officers, the local government has only 2,000 registered business and there are instead 3,200 flats on the market? So that was one of the issues that raised our attention, lawfulness and tax evasion and all these kind of things, which obviously also affect the lawful entrepreneur and accommodation professional that spend money to do advertising, to promote themselves, and they have people that does the same job, but they are not registered. Probably the house is not even fit to host travelers. So we raised the issue on the social media. There was quite a big echo on the local media. I must say that the reaction of the city was more like, mind your own business, because because when you have a city of 53,000 people, like is Venice, and you got a sizable part of the town which is involved in this kind of market, you kind of actually, people say, okay, well, why don't you do something else? So we got this mixed reaction from the town. There was a lot of people supporting our research, and the officials government was a bit like skeptical also because they were looking like, they were not having the situation under control. So, we got let's say a lukewarm reaction, but being pig-headed like we are, we kept on doing researches every 6 months, and we kept on releasing the data, and we saw that we had a trend of like 30% increase every 6 months until nowadays we have 10,000 flats. So it's been in 5 years a 300% rise of the market. Just to put you in context, Venice has a stock of houses. When I talk about Venice, I talk the islands, the part that is in the island, of 40,000 houses. So when you start to having 10,000 houses on 40,000, you are seriously becoming a danger for the local population, chances of finding an affordable accommodation, rent or buy a house. But this was the first part. Then it was the research part. And then we said, okay, what can we do? What can we do? We can raise the issue. We can protest. We can try to lobby politically for better regulation. And because we are also very active socially, and we didn't want to give this research slant anti-tourism. We don't think that the tourist is the problem. We think that the problem is the regulation and the platform that exploit the lack of regulations. So because we think tourism is a good thing per se, it's a good thing that people want to travel, want to discover new things, get into new cultures, and they get back home full of ideas and more acceptance with people that is different. So tourism per se is a very good thing. Over tourism, like over good food, over everything becomes a problem.
Can we stick with that for a second? Because I'm curious. One, I think it's absolutely brilliant and very open-minded and open-hearted to put your stamp of approval on tourism per se, and like the human exchange part of that, right? And the cross-cultural learning and understanding and, whatever, like kumbaya stuff. That's great. The other, and I don't mean that overly, flippantly, right? I'm flippant just by nature, but I actually believe that I'm commending you for having that level of discernment and differentiation in your branding. I'm just curious about the definition of over tourism. Is that something that you guys have thought a lot about? Because to me, the obvious way to define that is just the sheer scale of the incoming, let's say the volume of tourists coming in each year, as a ratio or a proportion to the population.
Yes.
You and I share a love of Venice. We can talk about that some other time, but in Venice, it's absolutely astonishing, and it's just visually obvious how disproportionate the number of incoming tourists are to the actual local residents.
Yes.
Right? Am I missing something, or do you guys have another way of?
No, I concur with the definition if we apply it with normal city, with cities, complete cities, of course. If we apply it to destinations which are built for tourism, obviously over tourism is not an issue. I'm talking about like seaside resorts or in places I can imagine. I've never been, but I can imagine like Las Vegas or something like that, where
Disneyland. Disneyland.
exactly. But no, but even near Venice, we have places like Jesolo, which is actually during the winter there are probably living 3 person there because it's just a long strip of hotels and bed and breakfast and summer houses. So just the number and the number, the comparison, the percentage of the number compared between residents is a good sign, but it's not enough. Actually, when you see that this number start disrupting the basic functionality of the life of the town. So when transport are disrupted, the people find difficult to reach their job place. The amount of waste produced is too much for the local sewerage or the local bin men that have to get rid of them. So overtourism is that is more like a decaying of the quality of life for the people who have.
I want to read you a quote. You guys have gotten a lot of press in the last 6 to 9 months, I think, right? I mean, certainly in the last few months. Here's a quote from the most recent article that I saw, which is from Reuters, and this is about Barcelona, right?
Yeah.
This is a lifelong Barcelona resident, someone who was born there and obviously knows it in and out, and presumably would understand the changes and have a sense of civic love for the city. And this really cuts to the chase. I don't enjoy the city center anymore and wouldn't live there ever again. I want to repeat that. This is a lifelong Barcelona resident saying, I wouldn't live there ever again. That's crazy, man. What
Yeah.
is, you know? That's the quality of life deterioration that you're talking about, right?
Exactly. My own little experience is, I mean, I had to move out of Venice. I had to went and live in the mainland for the last 10 years. But my family still lives there, my parents, my sister, my nephews.
Sure.
And getting to them for me is a chore. I mean, I obviously love them and to bits and want to see them as much as possible, but to go to see them, I have to actually surf the crowd and
exactly right.
landing in Venice.
Exactly
The first 15 minutes coming back to Venice for somebody who lived Venice before this is soul crushing, because you see all the shops are gone. There you got only this food, eat quick stuff on the street. Maybe it's even good stuff. I don't know, but it's the sheer quantity of it is one after the other, and the cheap fake glass a mask shop and everything like that. Amount of rubbish, and then you finally reach the house on your parents. You lock the door behind you, like you're back in your bubble. But honestly, I can completely understand the guy. It takes away the pleasure to live in your own town, which is tremendous if you think about it.
And that's offensive. I mean, that's offensive on every level. Very interesting. Who else is involved? Who are the other folks? You mentioned the Australian. Did you mention Damiano or?
Well, yes. As I said, after the research part, then we decided to do something about it, and it wasn't. We didn't want to protest or take it against him, so we started to develop in Venice a business idea that was, how can we use in a martial art form, now revert the energy of tourism against tourism in a certain way to promote residentiality and to extract as much value for the resident. And that's where the idea, the basic business model of idea of Fairbnb.coop came. Then researching about our idea and the name that is born in that moment, we found out there were other groups in Amsterdam that were doing the same. They were questioning themselves on tourism, the impact of tourism and short-term rentals in their town. So we got in touch with them, and we met this guy, with a Spanish guy living in Amsterdam, that he was collaborating with a Swiss guy and a Lithuanian girl, and with a guy from Bologna that he was just next door to us, but we met through Amsterdam, who was working on a solidarity project to use tourism to fund charities. And so we put all the ideas together. It took a lot because obviously it's not like we were like best buddies at the beginning. You have to compromise, to mix the ideas, to create a form of democracy in the group. And it took us like 1.5 years before taking the decision of founding a cooperative for the purpose of actually, I can say, fortify the concept, because a cooperative is not something that can be acquired easily. It can assume something where shares and equities are important. So it kind of the perfect setup to protect our values. And then in 25th of September 2019, we founded the cooperative and started funding the development of the platform Fairbnb.
Next time, Garnett and I continue our discussion with Emanuele as we delve more into the background of Fairbnb and how he thinks it brings the original idea of Airbnb back to its origins, and we learn the core concepts of Fairbnb. Coming soon, we have Tyler Lorenzen of Puris, a company that is providing a key ingredient in meatless protein, pea protein. Jonathan Webb of App Harvest will also be here to talk about the innovations his company is introducing in Appalachia. Plus, we have Ryan Merkley of Creative Commons coming up. Other discussions about the world of F1, facial recognition, the food business, and more, all in the works. But next time, we're back with part 2 of our discussion with Emanuele Dal Carlo.
Thanks for joining Garnett and Mark on the Innovation Podcast. Visit innovationpodcast.co to subscribe and listen to other episodes.